All right, so just a couple announcement type things to start with. I'll talk for Dove since he's not able to make it. I don't think he's here at least. Dove's doing the CEO Shadow program, so this week and next week he'll be a little unavailable. He said he could reach out on Slack if there's anything urgent. Also, feel free to talk to me, or we can work with Kenny if we have any other product management type questions. So feel free to reach out to me if you have anything that you need, and we'll make sure we get it addressed. The next one is around the 12.6 retrospective. I have to apologize. We usually try to have those open for the entire milestone. We did not do that for her 12.6. We forgot, or I forgot. So I apologize for that. But if you have anything for 12.6, which I know was a little while ago, please add that to our issue today, and then I'll correlate that and get it onto the team retrospective, which is the GitLab kind of company-wide or engineering-wide one happens tomorrow. So I'll kind of bubble everything up to that. All right, next one. I just wanted to kind of point this out that I've noticed we have quite a few issues in 12.4. It kind of got out of control a little bit, got a little high. Usually we try to have 20 to 30 for this milestone we originally had planned. We wanted to have less than 20 because we knew a lot of people were going to be on vacation and things. So, but we ended up with about, I think the current numbers are around over 50, 54, I think. There were 20 some like we wanted for 12.7, but a bunch moved from 12.6 into 12.7, and then we added a number after the milestone had started. So that's how we got to this number. To kind of handle that for now, a couple things. I just want to make sure everyone, if you could take time and make sure everything has the correct workflow label on it, then that will help us kind of start moving things out of 12.7. If there's anything now that you see that's in there that hasn't been started, we're probably going to just have to move those to 12.8 now, just so we can start narrowing down this list so we have a better idea of what we're actually going to try to deliver for 12.7. And then there's already quite a few issues in 12.8 too, so we'll probably have to start narrowing that down as well, but I'll be working with Dove as he's available and Kenny to help narrow those down. Anyone have any questions about that, or comments or thoughts? All right. All right, moving on. The next one, Seth opened up a MR here. Everyone can take a look and comment as needed. Our idea is that we want to start using people within the monitor stage to be kind of the first reviewers for our MRs. We'll open it up for comments here in a sec. I think the idea here is that people within monitor will have more context around our own MRs a little bit better. So hopefully the review process, that first round of reviews, can go a little bit faster and might be a little more in depth and valuable without having to kind of wait for a reviewer to get up to speed on our product in our area. And then we'll still do the same kind of maintainer review process that we always do. So people have ideas or thoughts on this? If people think it's a good idea, do we want to?
I think it's a great idea. Yeah. I typically, when I'm requesting a review on something, I'll annotate the file and see who was in there last, and make a, use that as kind of a more targeted change or merger or reviewer recommendation. But definitely it helps knowledge transfer as well as speed the review up. like you said, for context.
Yeah, that's another good point, is having each other reviewing these MRs will help us share knowledge and have everyone on the team or within the stage, I guess, get more familiar with the different things people are working on. And hopefully that will make everyone, more familiar with our entire kind of scope of the product, which is important. And then that should help everybody out too. And the goal would be to have people kind of across monitor, so APM and health be able to review it. That again will spread that knowledge out, and hopefully if people on like the health team are having people on the APM team review, will help us on the APM to understand their part of the product a little bit better too. So we'll have that kind of cross understanding, which is important. Or I'll let David, you can write this down and then answer it or ask it.
Sorry. Yeah, for this release, we have, I had this issue that depends on a couple of other issues. And from what I noticed is that all of those were moved to 12.8 except for mine. Okay. So I kind of need those dependencies to work on mine. And I'm not sure we want to squeeze those issues so I can, work on mine, or should I just go ahead and move it to 12.8 if, both back and front end are full for this release?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm just kind of trying to remember which ones. Oh yeah, this one. Okay. Yeah, I know I talked to Clement a little bit about this one as well. Okay, so my guess is that we're not going to get to those dependent issues in this release. So if yours really depends on it, then we probably have to move yours out to 12.8 as well. I don't really want it. Have you started all that work, and how far are you along in that?
I mean, I cannot start because the code depends on the previous front-end code that is supposed to be on one of the previous dependencies. So gotcha. I'm completely like at zero. Okay, sounds good. So then, yeah, let's plan on just moving that one out as well for now. Because we're definitely overcommitted for their 12.7, so I don't know that we'll be able to like pull in more work for sure. So, yeah. All right, thank you. Just to back up a sec, David, did you want to ask your question?
Yeah, so I mean, so my question was, if there are things that are very monitor dependent, is there a way to, and I was kind of hitting around with what Adrian said, is there a way we can ask Danger to let us do the reviews for that? And case in point was, I did a review on Postgres exporter the other day, and I totally agree that we should be the ones doing the reviews on that, since it's a monitoring thing. But I did notice that there have been a lot of changes that I didn't know anything about recently, also to that thing. So, but I mean, we can't be a gate to somebody making changes. But that was just maybe that's a further refinement after we get this MR specified. But for us to take ownership of certain areas of the code, maybe put code owners files in the right place.
Yeah. If we can do it with some kind of code owners file, that would probably be the best. Yeah, maybe we should add an issue under monitor somewhere just to make sure we don't forget about that, and track it. And that could be, yeah, like you said, that could be the kind of the follow-up iteration to the MR that I have linked here. Does that make sense? Okay. Nadia, you have the next one.
Yeah, hi everyone. So since I joined GitLab 3 months ago, I've been kind of covering for both APM and health. And now that we had a third designer join the monitor team, looks like we'll be able to have a dedicated designer for each group. So I'll be working with you guys. I'll be the dedicated APM designer. The transition will happen over the next milestone or so, because I'm already working on some health issues. So we figured that we'll try and make it as smooth as possible. So likely the transition will happen in 12.8 and 12.9. So Amelia will still be working with you guys, but she will kind of phase out over time. And the new designer, Matt, will probably be working on one of the new groups at Monitor. I don't know what it will be, but yeah, that's that's the situation. So yeah, I'm excited to work with you guys.
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah, it'll be great. Right before you started, we set up a group in GitLab to tag like all the designers. I suppose we could go back to using that again. So we make sure it gets routed to the right person. Can't remember what it was, but I can find it. But yeah, we're excited. That's great. Good to hear. Yeah, we'll come back to talking about new teams. I can talk about that here at the end. At least what I know, but yeah, I'm glad to hear that we're having more designers. That's great. That'll help us smooth things along. Miguel, do you?
Yeah, so I just wanted to mention there were a few discussions about meta issues versus epics and how we group our work. Let's say one of the things that Clement suggests is that we try to push epics more because not only because they are the natural choice, but also because whatever feedback we have or limitations that we face when using epics should hopefully feed back to the product and to the create stage, so that we can also improve the way epics work. It's a bit of dogfooding philosophy here. And Adrian is asking if we should highlight what epics bring to the table, and the answer is I don't know. I think we have to discover more. I personally have to discover more what epics can do that issues cannot. But yeah, it's a dogfooding effort more than anything else.
Well, I just wanted to raise this, but I used to work a little bit on the discussions and how epics were built back in the day when we're smaller in size at GitLab. So I worked with the product manager back then, and I do know a little bit about how we should be using epics. And I did get to use epics back in the day, because we used to have these things that we call meta issues back in the day, where we had a larger description for an issue, and we just grab a bunch of issues, we put them on a comment, and we'll try to deliver those issues until we consider the meta issue close. So that's what brought epics here. And this is to answer David's question. If you so desire, we can ask one of the discussion teams to help us with this presentation, or I can try and explain using some of the previous epics that we did in the past, if I can find them, how we used to work with those at GitLab.
There may already be a presentation out there. I just from one of the other teams. Now that you mentioned that, it sounds plausibly or plausible anyway.
Yeah, I'll try to find one of those, and I'll link it on the monitor stage Slack channel.
Great. Yeah, I think this is great to start using this and dog food it. There's definitely some limitations, so I think it'll be good to discover those, and we can help kind of dog food it and identify how we want epics to work, and maybe that's something that customers want as well. I know in other tools I've used epics that work very differently than they work at GitLab, or not very differently, but somewhat. So there's probably some things we can take from everyone's past experiences and other tools they've used as well for what they expect epics to do. I think the nice thing about epics is that it's easy to kind of consolidate or group a bunch of issues together into one place. It's easy to, from an issue, to figure out all the related issues because you can just go to the epic and find it. Those are the nice things. The hard thing that we've had in the past, which is kind of why we've been using these kind of meta issues, is that you can't assign people to epics. We can't assign milestones. So it's hard to see on, like on if we're looking at a board of issues, you don't see the epic on there being scheduled the same way. Is that right, Jose? You're shaking your head at me.
Yeah. There is no multiple assignees, because I do remember that when we finished the work for multiple assignees for issues, then we wanted to move on to merge requests, and then we wanted to move on to epics. There's still, the issue is still open, if I recall correctly.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So those are some of the limitations, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't use them, and we can probably find ways around some of that we can use. Great. Okay. I don't know. There's been a couple of comments. There's a Diraj. There's a YouTube video. That's great. Thank you for putting that link in. Okay. Does anyone else have thoughts around epics? Okay, there is one more thing. I did kind of towards the end of December, I put something in like in the handbook about discussion type issues, which were kind of separate from epics. But if people think that we should be using epics for that as well, here, I'll put the link to what I put in the handbook. Let me find, I'll put it in here. We can certainly, I'm definitely open to changing our process. We can update the handbook around if we think epics are a better place to kind of have discussion. We can certainly change that. My thought was that my original thought was we'd have these kind of discussion issues. Those would be like the first way to generate ideas and discuss things. Once they were flushed out a little bit, then we'd create an epic from that and create all the implementation issues. That's what I tried to document, but if we think epics are better used, I'm certainly open to that. Okay, any other thoughts on epics? All right, the last one I had that I thought of, I can talk a little bit about some of our hiring plans. They're still fairly tentative, but we're pretty close, I think, for the next fiscal year, which is fiscal year 21, which starts from February, this February, so in a few weeks through the next year. I think our current hiring plan, I have some notes. I'm just going to find it here so I can make sure I'm saying the right thing. So I think our goal would be to add at least one, maybe two new monitor related teams. So we'll hire enough people to kind of split our current teams from health and APM into up to four teams. I'm trying to, as I'm talking, find the right spreadsheet here. So, oops. So the teams that we were talking about, and we're going to work, so I should back up and say, first of all, that Sam started this week. He's a new director of ops. So that'd be like my manager. So he's going to be heavily involved in this process, and we'll kind of have to help work with him to refine kind of what was planned before he got here. But the current plan would be still have a APM team, but kind of split out logging into its own team. So that would be kind of APM would kind of split into two teams, kind of a APM, which would be like tracing, error tracking, and then create a logging team. Then health would be turn into more of like a triage and resolve team, which would be incident management, alert response, SLO management, which is similar to what they're doing today. And then there's, there's talk of having a separate metrics team, which would handle cluster monitoring, infrastructure monitoring, and just metrics in general. So kind of focusing in on, or kind of narrowing the focus of each team into very specific kind of buckets. So that's kind of the current plan. What's happening right now is they're looking to open recs, or maybe there are some, for hiring engineering managers to start with. So there'd be, trying to think. So we needed at least one more front-end engineering manager to kind of fill Adriel's position. We want to probably hire at least one more back-end engineering manager. And then once those are in place, we can kind of start talking about kind of splitting the teams out to, and then hire more front-end engineers, more back-end engineers. Yeah, we'll have to, as we start getting into the next month and the year that follows, we'll kind of be refining the actual plan of where people go. And we haven't talked about any of that yet, but we'll have to work with Sam and Christopher on all of that. So if people have any, that's kind of what I know so far. It is going to be finalized hopefully soon. I would think it has to be, because we're going to start hiring people starting in February is our hope, or at least start opening recs in February. So, so we have to finalize the plan before that, but there's still some budget questions that are happening. So that's all going on right now. Does anyone have, that's kind of all I know, but if other people have questions, let me know. I can try to answer them, or I can find the answers for everyone.
Is there a timeline for the opening of the new teams? I understand is during the next year, but I don't know if it's 6 months from now or 1 year.
I think it's going to be a lot faster than that. I'm guessing it'll be in the next couple months that we'll start hiring more engineers. I think we're going to have to talk to, it's kind of hard because Sam, this is his third day or something. So, but he's going to have to be involved. I think we'll do something similar to what happened when health and APM split. And some of you know this better than I do, but because you were here before I was, as this was happening. But we'll start probably hiring a manager and some engineers on the existing teams until we have enough people to start a new team. We don't want to have a team that, we don't want to split up our teams right now to have a bunch of really small teams that aren't effective. But I think it'll be happening. I think the goal is to start hiring people, you know, opening recs and starting to like figure out how the new teams are going to look starting in, you know, a few weeks to a few weeks to a month or two. So I think it'll happen before 6 months for sure. We're not sure exactly when, but I think it's in the next month or two. And then this also goes like Nadia was talking about, there's design work that needs to happen. So now there's more designers, so that's awesome. There's product managers that need to be hired along with this. So that has to kind of span out so we have enough people to build up a full team before we can start talking about splitting it. So that's kind of what's being planned right now. And I can, saw the note about sharing. I can always put it in our, there's a somewhat confusing spreadsheet that I posted in there that people can look at. There's a, I'm not sure how public this is, so maybe I won't share it in the video, but the one that we want to look at is kind of the first tab in there that says FY21 proposal final, which is a very somewhat confusing name because is it final or is it a proposal? I'm not sure. But you can kind of see there's like one section that has the end of year plan for fiscal year 20. So that's where we should be or so right now. And then the next section is how many people we want to have at the end of, or our current teams plus adding or hiring is the kind of that section for proposed hiring. So you can kind of look in there and see where we're looking to hire, and you can scroll down to monitor. I still don't quite know why, but it's highlighted differently than every other team. So it's easy to find for now. But yeah, it's a little bit in flux still, and I haven't been super involved other than trying to ask some questions and try to figure out what the timeline is. But we'll try to get more information. So if you have questions about any of this, feel free to reach out to me and I can try to track them down. Like I said, it can change. So this isn't, I wouldn't stake everything on this spreadsheet, but I wanted to be, in the spirit of kind of being transparent, I wanted to at least share kind of where we are right now in the process. All right, any questions about that?
I'm just a little bit curious because it's, well, we're gonna have an APM team and a metrics team, and doesn't that kind of collide with the kind of work that they do with each other?
It does a little bit. So I think this comes from, so Dove has a little bit, I've talked to him a little bit. He has a little different definition of APM than what we had been using. To him, APM is it's not. So what we've been working under the assumption is APM consists of metrics, logging, and tracing. Industry-wide, APM means it's a little bit different than that. So it's more around like it has a little more focused on monitoring. It doesn't necessarily consist of metrics. Metrics are like a little bit different. So but it's more around, because it's really around performance management. So it's monitoring performance, monitoring availability. That's kind of, I think, where we're going with like the term APM. So that's why they're separate. So then metrics would be kind of its own standalone thing. Logging would be its own thing. But tracing and performance management, availability would all kind of still be rolled into what we're now going to call APM. I'm sure that Dove can explain it better than that. When he explained it, it all made sense, but I feel like I'm butchering his definition. So when he's back, we'll definitely get his take on how he sees the teams. We could probably talk to Kenny about it as well, because I think he has some good thoughts on just how a lot of that spreadsheet and how the teams are driven by how product sees the GitLab product, how our product team sees our monitoring tools and how they kind of work together. So, and how just kind of logically how they get organized. Again, from an engineering standpoint, if that doesn't make sense, we can certainly kind of tweak that and work with them to come up with teams that make more sense if what they've thought about doesn't fully align with how engineering is thinking about it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah,
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
I was just going to make a comment that is also, regardless of how we define APM, it's really depending on how the customers define APM. So if we define it one way, we've got to change our definition to whatever the industry is defining as APM, so that our messaging is consistent with whatever's going on in the world. But I was also going to make, I probably need to comment on this down there, but I know some of us have used Datadog, some of us used New Relic, some of us used Sentry and those things. If you need some information on New Relic, I can hook you up. But I'd really like to see what Datadog does. And every time somebody posts a Sentry link or something in the infrastructure lounge or whatever, I'm lost from a Sentry standpoint. If anybody's got any Sentry information, or has got the ability to do a Sentry demo, that would be full of awesome.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We do have a Datadog expert on the team.
Yeah, I know we do.
Adrian used to work at Datadog. That's right? I'm saying that right. Right?
Yeah, that's great.
And I've done a good bit of sumo logic. I fancy myself a mid to expert level sumo logic user. At least I did 6 months ago. So I can definitely help out with how sumo logic handles logging and stuff.
Yeah, and I've used Sumo Logic and Datadog were my go-tos previously. So yeah, that's a good point. Maybe we can create an issue or something, but I think that would be definitely useful to either have demos or find and link demos that people can watch of these different products, so we have an idea of what features they have, some things that we can, if there's some best practices type things that we can learn from, that's great. I'm pretty sure that Dove, he's aware of all of these and is very familiar with some of them. So he's basing some of his product decisions on these different tools, which is great. So, but it would be good for the wider team too to see. And as a first pass or first iteration, it could just be, we could find demos of them. I'm sure most of these companies have either marketing material or community presentations that they've done that we can show, and so people just can
maybe we can. I know New Relic has some kind of free account that you can sign up for.
Yeah,
get some training or do a little bit of tracing. So that would be nice to have a New Relic free account that we could our project hooked up to a free account.
Yeah. Okay, great. Good. Does anyone else have topics or questions, things they want to bring up? Pause for silence here. If not, I think today we'll probably just kind of leave it there instead of walking through the board. With that said, maybe take a little bit of time to kind of review all of the issues that are in 12.7 individually, and so we can start making sure everything's in the right workflow state and start kind of moving stuff out of 12.7 now, if we can do that, so we can kind of focus in on what we think we can deliver for 12.7. Does that sound like a plan? All right. Great. Well, I appreciate it. Thanks, everyone. And yeah, have a good rest of your day. All right.